Hey everybody, welcome back to the Empire State Conservatives Podcast, episode 132. It is me, your host Evan, with the All-American Conservative Solomon Taac and his Freedom Baby, here with special guest, host of the show Talking GOP on Queens Public TV, and proud patriot, Gabe Montalvo. Gabe, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me again. It's always fun with the Freedom Baby, and you guys, of course, too.
We missed you.
Aw, thank you. I'll be back anytime.
It's been a few weeks since we had our coalition to combat the coronavirus, which apparently didn't do that much. But we are still working on it, guys. We are still working on it. But first, let's get into it. Bernie Sanders, the open communist octogenarian, is out of the presidential race once again, making off with all the Bernie Bros money and endorsing Joe Biden, because even though he thinks Joe Biden is a complete piece of garbage, he is still willing to endorse him because that is where his bread is baked, guys. Taac, like, really, is Bernie really just running to take people's money and then just run and go buy another house?
Run, Forrest, run. He didn't even pay child support, so I don't know what anybody expected from him as a presidential candidate. This was a man who legitimately fathered a child in pretty much a one-bedroom shack that didn't even have adequate floors for his child to live in, and then just bounced out. And just never spoke to them again. Like,
but you don't need
every so often.
You just need bread lines.
Bread lines aren't that bad anyway, and gulags weren't bad.
They do have bread.
Worked. But you have to look at a person's characteristics, their quality traits, and their especially their history. You know what I mean? So if you see that this man was never willing to take care of his child, never paid any kind of finances toward him, you're going to give him your money and tell that man that I hope you win as president? He can't even take responsibility for his own personal life. You think he's going to take responsibility for everybody else's?
But that's the whole point of being a communist, is you don't have to take responsibility for anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair point.
Gabe?
So I think... I shouldn't say I think. I know. This guy's a freaking sellout. This is the second time that this has happened to him. He's gone out endorsed. I just want to know how big the DNC check is this time, or Biden's checkbook is. I mean, we know that he's been in Chinese affairs. His family's been involved. The Bidens have been involved in China and Ukraine and all that stuff. But no one talks about that anymore. So I'm just glad that we can finally be honest, because now I think the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, are working on their website so they can drop the word democratic from it. I know a lot of people are actually saying that, oh yeah, no, we can drop that term now. We're just going to be now the socialists of America. I identify as a socialist. And now, since Bernie dropped out, we have this new weird people that are exiting the Democratic Party, but they're not necessarily like walk away or Dem exit type people. They're just these fringe Bernie bros that are just running around hating the DNC and are now chanting, apparently, that they're going to write in Bernie.
They have to burn down Milwaukee first, though, and not get
right,
caught.
Exactly.
If you're a convicted felon, you can't vote.
Yeah, no, they got to burn down Didn't they also say they're going to blow up the country?
Yeah, they said they were going to put the liberals from MSNBC up against a wall.
Wow.
What the worst movement? What are the worst movements in American history? Not only just for like their actual what they believe, but also the people who are in it. You guys have seen the video. We posted it on the Instagram of the bald-headed Bernie chick just screaming at the camera and then stopping. These people are unhinged.
These are I don't know what it is about people from the left, but when they go to college courses, they all take these weird art classes.
Yeah.
So they believe that screaming and releasing that energy is artistic in nature, and it's a release of energy, and like it's gonna change things around you. You had the one of the old Black Lives Matter leaders who just had graduated from some art college somewhere, who thought that she can go to this art display and do air squats and couldn't even finish the air squats because she was so damn out of shape.
But dude,
I was out of breath after like 4 of them.
Dude, I was in Brooklyn one year for Father's Day, and I was insanely hungover. So what happened was my buddy, who's a doctor now, I was talking to him the other day about some coronavirus stuff. But we were at his graduation party and we got super wasted because he told me he was going to propose to his girlfriend. So we got completely trashed. I was super hungover for Father's Day. I'm like dying. We're in Brooklyn. Eat brunch, feeling a little better. Walk outside, and there are these weirdos. It's the only way I can describe them. Rolling around in dirt and pretending to be plants and crying.
Oh God.
And it smelled like manure. And I was just like, is this what's going on now? Is this the thing now? Like, this is Brooklyn? Thank God I never wanted to live here. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Cenk tweeted out a few days ago. He was like, about 70% of Democratic voters under 45 voted for Bernie Sanders. He's like, we own the Democratic Party. So my question is now whether the old guard is going to build a bridge to the future, or are they going to fight us all the way? Their choice. So I responded to him. I was like, it doesn't take much. It doesn't seem much that you own the Democratic Party, or at least much of it. You lost your primary, and your presidential candidate failed a second time. Where is it that you stand? And I said your movement is more of a puddle than a tidal wave. I mean, these newer generation socialist Democrats, and now they're separating themselves from the classical liberals. You really have to ask, okay, a lot of young people that don't have much life experience voted for an idealistic society, which they don't really have any idea of. And it really pisses me off because my family comes from South America. I've spoken about this several times. My grandfather, actually, when we went to go to Costco recently, said, I'm used to waiting in lines because we had bread lines in Ecuador when I was growing up, and it was just easier to get food that way. Like, people don't understand the harsh reality of people not having the ability to provide for themselves. And I met some people from Venezuela, and they're great. And they tell me, like, listen, we really don't know why people are advocating for this so much. And I'm like, because we're being sold a lie here. And I really feel bad for the youth that are actually accepting this.
Well, it's not even that there's a lot of them. They're just the loudest. I mean, these are people where I could piss off the roof and tell them that it's raining and they'd be collecting it to boil for tea later. I mean, come on, these are not the smartest people in the world. They support an ideology that has failed and destroyed every country that it's been used in.
Right. But it seems like, ironically, that they're also the most on paper educated.
Education does not equal intelligence, people.
It doesn't. But you hit it very much on the head when you said an idealistic society, because I was thinking to myself earlier, I can't even go back to 2008 and even explain why I voted for Obama anymore. But
Taac, you also supported Mike Bloomberg at one point. We're not trying to bring up your past.
Look,
right?
no, but I could tell you though, going back, I was in Essex County College at the time when I was watching his inauguration, and I was like, it just felt good. You know what I mean? You can't explain the feeling of euphoria that came. It was like smoking weed for the first time. Not that I know.
Which is also bad.
It,
I mean, I know it's libertarian, but weed is not great for your brain.
I just assume from how I hear people talk about it, it's like smoking weed for the first time. It was just a feeling of euphoria, and you just expected things to change, like he said, and it never did.
No, they changed, Taac. It got worse.
The
country got a lot worse.
You can't say it changed when it wasn't going very well under Bush anyway.
Yeah, it was like going like this, and then went. It's like, all right, we're gonna try to land in this field, and it's like, no, we're gonna crash in this field. That's what.
We turned the country into United 93.
Oh, God. But we are going to jump a little bit. So we had a outline set up a little bit differently. But speaking of education does not equal intelligence, Gabe, you were harassed online by Columbia professor Jeffrey Lax, who apparently is a complete psychopath from what I've seen, from what you showed me in this conversation.
Yeah.
He called you a Nazi sympathizer?
I didn't know if you...
Give folks at home kind of a background of what happened and kind of where this came from, because I've seen a lot of hate coming out of the left. We talked about this before, and I have a few stories I want to add on to this. But just give the folks at home kind of what happened with this interaction with someone who's supposed to be influencing young minds at Columbia, which is a very prestigious university.
Right. So this college professor, Ivy League professor, Jeffrey Lax, is actually a deputy chair at Columbia University and a political science professor at that, for those of you who don't know this great mind, apparently. So an algebra teacher, an old algebra teacher of mine, posted something about a political cartoon about the president. I commented something like, "Listen, everyone has their own opinion." He just comes out of left field, starts commenting, and is like, "Oh, I can't believe someone could defend the president who's so evil, yada yada yada." And I said, "Listen, here's why I don't think X, Y, and Z." And I know that you're going to put up the graphics of what I said up there. I was basically telling him, like, "Listen, you want to talk about him murdering his citizens, U.S. citizens? I don't think so, because he kind of gave his salary to go towards research for this. Meanwhile, Pelosi and the New York City health commissioner were like, go outside, enjoy the sun, go to the Lunar New Year festival." So then he just comes out and starts telling me that I should just go drop dead. I should just go and die. And calls me a neo-Nazi enabler, a Nazi lover, and then Trump supporters wear armbands and whatnot. So I then decided to ask questions. I told him, I was like, "Listen, isn't it ironic that you're the most educated, quote unquote, educated person on this thread, and you can't come at me to have a civil discussion, but instead throw playground insults at me?" And he's like, "Oh, well, actually, I'm too smart to have this conversation." I'm like, "Sure."
He mispronounced stupid.
Yeah, a little bit. So I tweeted it out, and I had some support from Brandon. He was like, "I can't believe this freaking elitist, guy is dogging on a Hispanic Trump supporter who's also in the military, calling him a freaking Nazi." And several hundreds of retweets later, still no answer from Colombia. So we might have to do like a Crowder confront style thing for Talking GOP, but that's when we get later, when we can go outside.
Yeah, we've seen this from the left repeatedly, and I'm not going to call out anyone by name because I don't do that. But I was listening to someone on a video call, and they were like, "I heard Boris Johnson," this was when Boris Johnson first got diagnosed with COVID. And they're like, "Boris Johnson's in ICU." And she's like, I just wish it was Trump. I know that's a horrible thing to say, but that's just how I feel. I'm like, no, you need to look at yourself and see how hateful of a person you are that you would wish a sickness upon another human being where they could potentially die. Listen, I despise almost every single person in the Democratic Party. I don't want any of them to get COVID and die. I want them to get voted out so we can show them, hey, we beat you. I don't need you to get beaten by some virus. This whole thing on the left where it's okay to wish death and ill will upon someone just because you don't agree with their political ideology is absolutely disgusting. We saw it with this professor. It's just another example of this dude calling you a Nazi sympathizer. I know you, dude. I know you are not a Nazi sympathizer.
Thank you. I'm glad someone freaking... Well, I mean, thanks to everyone else who helped me and retweet and spread and like it, that knows that I'm not this individual. But it's interesting to see how these people like to preach tolerance, and time again, the narrative doesn't change. They say one thing, but their actions always result in hate. And I could even say in the Hispanic community, I've been disowned by people several times. Whether it be online or in person, like, "You're not a real Hispanic, you're selling out to the white man." I'm like, how? I'm literally a part of a Hispanic Republican organization. I wear on my lapel of my suits an Ecuadorian American freaking pin. What? How does that translate to anything that you're trying to push here? I mean, if you guys can explain it to me.
They always try to say that we hate our own and we're race traitors and all that other shit, but we know it's not true. We do what we do because we believe our communities and the nation as a whole can be elevated, but on a different path and not the path that has been continuing down throughout the past. But once you get off of that path, it's like crabs in a barrel. No, we don't want to get out of here. We want to be stuck in this barrel. You get in here with me. Nobody can escape it.
And Kingface I saw a post of him, I think it was Instagram or one of the other apps, where he's yelling. He's like, why do I have to? Why they don't have to buy your vote anymore? The Democrats aren't even buying the minority votes anymore. You have just given it to them willingly. They are giving you nothing, and you are blindly giving their loyalty.
Yeah, and it's so weird how people, I'd say, especially in the minority community, and I can only really say for like urban areas up here, where they choose to stay in this victim mentality. There's no way that you can say somewhere in like New York, for example, that a Black American is not able to go to college, or that tired, stupid old argument, which I was taught in school, which was, you know, voter registration ID laws should be changed because, quote unquote, Black Americans don't know where the DMV is, or they don't have access to internet or cell phones. I'm like, where do you think that like people live? Like I live across this, I live right near Lefrak, and obviously it's been gentrifying over the years, but it was still bad. My friend had a freaking computer. He had Wi-Fi. I lived in the 40 projects in Jamaica, which was very bad and still not the best neighborhood. But I walked around there and I'm like, people have freaking smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't. It really doesn't make any sense. And I think Kingface is absolutely correct. Before, at least you had the Obama phones. Now, what are you getting for voting Democrat?
You're getting a dream.
Shit.
Oh, you
got the dream. Broken promises again.
Yeah.
An idea.
Yeah, really. It's really a mess out there. It really is, and you need to think for yourself. You know, it's on both sides. Don't blindly buy into anything. If you see something on social media even from a right-leaning source, if it's not true, don't just start spouting it out. Do your research. Make sure that what you're getting is based on fact. It's based on what's actually going on out there. And which is why our whole reporting of the coronavirus outbreak has always been changing as it's gone on. When it first started, it was at a certain point, and as it's gone on, we've changed based on the information that's come out. We didn't jump to conclusions, but we also aren't denying with the facts that are going on right now. And I've spoken to medical professionals before we get into our whole coronavirus section that hospitals are not war zones every day. Some days they're very busy, and some days they're very dead. And while these people do need protective equipment, the virus is very dangerous, and it's extremely dangerous for people who are working the front lines because you are constantly exposed to it. So when you are constantly exposed to it, you're working long hours, your immune system decreases, and it leaves you more susceptible. When I worked law enforcement, we worked a rotating shift. I was sick the entire time that I worked in law enforcement because I was always tired, never sleeping right, and my immune system was compromised, and it was the winter. So I was sick for like 3 straight months. If I had been doing that now during the coronavirus outbreak, I would probably be dead because my immune system would have been shot. I would not be able to fight this thing off. Meanwhile, I probably was exposed to it at the school that I work at because we've had 4 people test positive and go to the hospital. Yet I was sick for maybe 2 days right before they shut down the schools, and I probably had it and recovered from it because my immune system's in tip-top shape right now.
Yeah, and you know, I'm glad that I don't think that the episode I was in last time with all of us, I don't think any of us really said, like, you know, I don't think anyone denied what was happening.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so we were just kind of like saying, hey, there's constant reports getting out every day. Like, if you follow the way that the masks were handled, it was, you don't need one, you only need one if you're sick. Then now you shouldn't wear them because you're healthy. Like, the story was constantly changing, and it's still constantly changing. I'm like, okay, do I need the freaking mask now? Now it's starting to seem like I need it a bit more. But I'm just, again, worried about how people are handling just staying indoors, watching their money being, getting depleted. And I'm more worried about people dying of starvation, malnutrition, because not everyone has those government benefits to get food and those basic necessities. And when you try to apply for those benefits, we found that those servers are horrible, and the service to actually get those government services are just as bad.
You know something funny? Talking about the mask. I wore my mask from the very beginning, even when they were telling us, "Hey, you only need to wear it if it's sick, so you can keep your cooties to yourself." Whatever, right?
I don't have cooties.
But if that was the case, why are the medical professionals in the hospitals wearing masks when they're 28 feet away from a person wearing the soft cloth mask? Because that 6 feet is a fake number. Yes, the majority of the spit and the projectiles are going to come out within that 6 feet, but they're also known to travel way further than the 6 feet.
And it lives on surfaces too.
Exactly. So they're wearing these soft masks, but when they're dealing directly with the person, they're wearing the N95s. It makes no sense for you to tell me not to wear a damn mask out in the public because it's only for people that want to keep their cooties to themselves. Now, and I have to find this video to back it up. I swear to Jesus, to God, to Krishna, to Buddha, to Donald Trump, that I heard.
Now we know you're serious, Taac. When you swear to Donald Trump, we know you're serious.
I swear I heard him say, Dr. Fauci say, oh, we were having discussions amongst ourselves. Do we let the general public wear the mask? Do we not let them wear the mask? We just wanted to get a stockpile up enough for those of us that needed it before we spoke about the general public using the rest of the what they tried to hoard for themselves. And that's when I truly knew that Dr. Fauci was an asshole.
You heard it here first. Well, not first, but you heard it here from Solomon Taac. Dr. Fauci is an asshole. But before, we're going to get into our Corona section in a minute, but before, let's hear from our sponsor, Shark Tooth Blades.
This next segment is brought to you by Shark Tooth Blades. Hey, if you are in construction or just do a ton of handiwork yourself, you must try Shark Tooth Blades and your utility knife. They are specifically made for cleaner, more precise cuts, eliminating the paper drag created by ordinary, dull, one-time use blades. Their blades are 10 times sharper and 5 times more durable. And now, using promo code ESC, you will get an additional 15% off on top of their current sale prices. To get yours, visit www.sharktoothblades.com and order today.
All right. It is Corona
It's Corona time. Hey, it's Corona time right now. It's Corona time.
We're going to get into Corona-related news. Besides the fact that Remington offered to make ventilators for New York State and Governor Cuomo decided to order them from China instead. That's that whole story. Andrew Cuomo is an asshole. We all know this. Him and his pierced nipples can rot in hell. But we have more concerning things here. Guys, Michigan and other states are not letting people buy seeds, paint, car seats, or American flags during the coronavirus outbreak, and cities of New York and Los Angeles are asking for Nazi-style reporting of neighbors who are not following government-mandated social distancing. This is the most this is way more troubling than Andrew Cuomo being a jackass, because this is what everyone who is even a little libertarian is worried about, which is government coming in and telling you what you can and cannot do and how you can and cannot live your life. We are already trying to get gun stores reopened, and we are having other issues. We know that people are not going to stay in their houses forever. Is the government going to launch troops or put it at the police departments to lock people in their homes? We don't believe so, because I just don't think that's going to happen, because that would be a call for all-out revolution. But these things are troubling. Listen, if you don't want people going out in public, why can't I buy seeds? If I need fruit or vegetable, or if I need vegetables, why can't I make my own vegetable garden? Why can't I have an American flag? It doesn't make any sense. Taac, what the hell is going on?
One of those doctors said that the American public needs to be prepared for at least 18 months of a shutdown.
Yeah,
right?
they need to go kick rocks. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that is not going to happen. So I continuously say that I believe that we should do what New York City did in during the Spanish flu. I'm about to say the swine flu, where they allowed businesses to open up on alternating schedules, so it kept their economy moving. That's something that we can really look into moving into, and each state can do it how they feel like doing it, or each city or municipality, whatever, can do it however they feel like it needs to be done. And that gets people back to work. Jobs where you can telework, you can continue teleworking. But jobs where you can't, alternate the schedules and people won't be on mass transit, compacted, and all that other stuff. Also, I like you guys, those of you who are looking. Online,
he has seeds! He has seeds!
One of my babies. There's
government. I have to report someone. He has seeds. He's growing things.
I'm probably gonna lose this one on the boating accident when I go fishing again. Anyways, you need to be prepared. This is a cantaloupe. I've got onions, I've got garlic, I've got tomatoes growing, I've got carrots growing. You have to be prepared for any and everything, right? And it's a shame that it took me to get to this point to figure out, oh shit, maybe I should get some seeds.
I got some freedom seeds that came in.
But I do too, right? They ring very loudly. But that's neither here nor there. But if they're not letting you buy seeds, you have other types of ways of getting them. Buy the damn fruit that it comes off of.
Yep.
Onions grow from other onions. Garlic
Potatoes,
grows from
too.
other garlic cloves.
Avocado.
Potatoes grow from potatoes, like you said, Gabe. But let's use our brains. You know what I mean? You can always find a way to kind of, and I probably shouldn't say this, but you can always find a way to usurp government authority.
No, you should say that, because that's the whole point of being American, is that the government you don't work for the government works for you. And it's the duty of every American, if the government becomes tyrannical, to overthrow the government. We're not talking about doing that right now. So before we get reported and banned from every single platform, which if it hasn't happened already, it's never going to happen. But that is the duty of every American. I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said, if the government becomes tyrannical, it is the duty of the people to overthrow it and replace it with a new government.
Mm-hmm.
And not every seed's gonna grow. So if you're buying one cantaloupe, buy 2 cantaloupes, and then germinate the seeds and take the ones that are actually growing. And for every other fruit or vegetable or whatever you're trying to grow, it's still the same thing. You want to buy at least 2 or 3 of each one, grab the seeds from them, germinate them, and then keep the ones that are growing.
Wow. You see, you learn so much when you come onto this show. Learn how to farm.
That's what we're doing. We are here to educate people.
Yeah. Here in the Montalvo household, we are creative in other ways. My grandfather created, for those of you watching, a coronavirus like little thing, and I thought it was funny to feature this. Some family members found it funny. I know him and I both did. We were like, that's creative, but some people are more sensitive to that. But what I find interesting is, getting back to the whole, you're not able to buy certain things. Why is it that you can't buy a car seat? Like, God forbid, you can't leave your kid at home alone because you have to go get, more food and supplies or whatnot, and your freaking car seat is broken. What are you going to do? It's illegal to put them in the front seat or to have them beneath a certain height because, God forbid, there's an accident and then, your baby can be injured or worse, die. So I would say that that's something essential. But now you have a government that's telling you can't buy what you feel necessary.
We're talking about Democrat-run states here. There is no limit to their stupidity. Cuomo bought ventilators from China, instead of letting Remington open and build them, okay? There is no bounds to Democrat stupidity when it comes to this virus.
Yeah, that's true. I forget that, where I am sometimes and you can't reason with them. Which leads me to my next point, which is I wrote an article a couple of days ago stating, I think it was something called Neighbors During Pandemic, the New Gestapo, ? And in it, I highlighted the fact that people are calling the cops if their neighbors are heard coughing or sneezing too loudly. It's insane. And there was one instance
I have allergies, people. Please do not call the police to come drag me out of my home.
No sneezing, no.
Or the Who is coming for us next.
The Who is coming. That's a terrifying name. And there was one instance in Maine where these guys had recently moved into the area, and it was like a small island, like secluded, town. Their neighbors cut a tree down and dragged it in front of their driveway so they could not leave the premises. And they were standing there, and they were sadly, to report fairly, they did happen to be gun owners that were patrolling and saying you can't leave. And the police got involved and they said, listen, he has a right of movement. So now de Blasio is saying in a press conference today, saying, hey, listen, if you see someone that's not, social distancing the whole 6 feet apart business, you better call the police. And I think he was even talking about setting up a 3-1-1 system where you can take a picture and send it and use it as evidence. I'm like, holy crap, why are you going to try and sell out your own person here? That you're instilling fear. And we not only saw this in World War II in Nazi Germany, proving my point that I'm not a Nazi.
Now
Screw
I don't
you,
know. I don't
Mr.
know. I'm not so sure about you now, Gabe.
Yes, right. Screw you, Professor Lax. Anyways, and also in the Soviet Union, where Stalin encouraged people to call, his own secret police force, and where he even had a book where I think he had like a red pen, and he would personally sign off on their deaths because they were just fellow citizens or comrades calling in on each other. And for us who we know our history, looking back, and now our public officials are making sure that we, rat out people for just standing close to each other. We don't know if they're husband and wife. They should be able to stand next to each other, amongst other things. And now you're telling us that we can't even congregate in churches or places of worship. It's insane.
It's the Democrat playbook. We've talked about it a million times. They just use the socialist Nazi playbook. It's violence against those who you don't agree with. It's socialism. It's government control. It's gun control. And this is the latest one. It's calling the cops on your neighbors who are there. Are people been arrested for being with their kids in a park. A guy and his daughter were playing t-ball in a park alone, and the cops came and threatened to arrest him.
Oh, I think it was even better when the guy was, I think he was in California. He went to go paddle boating by himself.
Yeah, by himself.
Well, wait, the guy that you brought up, Evan, I think he got handcuffed and put into it was Veasan in Virginia, Davis and Fort NCIC. They looked them all up and all that other stuff. But he started becoming a smartass when they asked him to leave.
I mean, I bet he did. I would do it. So, to be fair, I worked in law enforcement and I know better, but I would probably do the same thing. I'd be like, you guys know it's just me and my daughter in the park, right? Like, come on, like we're like 100 yards away from any other human being. I would be that guy, especially now because I'm getting so stir crazy. But yeah, I don't doubt he was being a jackass. And
when
you're a jackass in police custody,
they let their pride get to him, and they fucked him over. You know what I mean? But
I
definitely didn't write a woman 3 extra tickets one time instead of letting her go with a warning because she lied straight to my face.
They better lower freaking taxes because if we can't go into these freaking taxpayer-funded parks, I don't want to see any of it.
They close golf courses. You're always 6 feet away from someone in a golf course. I don't get it. You can't. There is no sense to the Democrat way anymore.
Now they're saying it's 13 feet. So again, I make the case.
It's 100 feet. It's 1,000 feet. Let's just make up numbers now, because first it was gatherings of 500 people, and then it's 5 people. Like it's going to be 18 months. We're gonna have Bernie Sanders saying we're gonna have more deaths than World War II. Now it's it might be 60,000.
Right. No, according to Führer Angela Merkel over there. In Germany, she said, they're outlining, 2 people only. And my question is this:
you have a family of 5. What are you supposed to do?
So get this. Again, in New York City, the last time my Google device told me that the population density of New York City is 1 per square mile is 1 to 26,000 people. How are you supposed to stay 13 feet away, X amount of feet away from these people, to stay in the confines of the law, apparently, and at the same time, not get your picture taken by all these creeps hanging out by their window people watching? And I've seen it happen, too, before the mayor even announced this in, different community groups. Freaking, sadly to say, they're slightly older people and Karens that like to speak to the manager, going out taking pictures of kids saying, they don't seem like they're 6 feet apart. How dare they? Why? What business is it of yours if a parent is making a decision for their child? Yes, I understand that you run the risk of catching this, but at the same time, it's not healthy to just stay indoors. Lock up cabin fever is a real thing. You do need vitamin D, and you can't just go out to get a freaking multivitamin to solve all your problems.
Exactly. That's why I run. And then when it first started, they said go out, take walks, exercise, do what you need to do. I was on Instagram earlier fishing by myself in an area that's still clearly open, not any state parks.
You're on staff yet. He is not done with law school, okay? We can't help you yet. Stop incriminating yourself.
I'm not incriminating myself. I was by myself and in an area that's still very much open to the public. It wasn't state parks or anything like that. So it's not like Virginia can come down and be like, oh, you went into our state park and did that when it was closed to the public. No, fuck you, blackface. I didn't. And I have a whole lot that I need to say about blackface, but at a later date and time. That dude's a royal idiot. He's an imbecile.
We'll do a third episode this week. We do have Jamie Silvestri coming up later this week. We will do a third episode just for you, Taac. All right.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Because sorry to cut you off, Taac, but Jamie was actually endorsed by my organization earlier in the week.
Oh, congratulations to him.
Yeah. Trying to fix New York one seat at a time. We're trying to fix New York.
Oh yeah, no, she's great.
Yeah, they you have to be able to get outside and keep your mind clear and actually get fresh air now that it's fresh air because you don't have as much cars on the road and all that other stuff. Get outside and do something and mind your goddamn business. Do what you got to do for you. It's the reason why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth and 2 eyes and 1 mouth, so you can look out for yourself and listen to the damn thoughts in your own head and do what you need to do for you, not worry about everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we were also given 2 nostrils, but people still can't smell the BS that's being touted to us. Oh, God. I've been endorsed for too long.
Moving into the last segment, bad news for Taac and Gabe, apparently. Coronavirus is now racist, according to AOC, Taac's lover, because black and brown people are dying more than other people from coronavirus. Never mind that blacks make up 22% of New York City population. Many of these people are living in shitty neighborhoods, living in housing projects, living shitty lifestyles. And as Jim Status said when we had him on the show for our Kung Flu Hustle episode, he's in the hood every day, and people are treating the virus like a joke. Remember, if you are not protecting yourself, you are putting yourself at risk. You know, this is the same issue that we have where people are like, well, America has more cases than Italy, and look what happened in Italy. Meanwhile, the United States has more people than about 90% of the EU, and we actually have less cases per capita and less fatalities per capita. Taac, you had some very good numbers on this. Why don't you just speak the truth? Not your truth, because we don't deal with that crap here. Speak the truth to the folks listening.
So we're going to start with New York City deaths before we go to a more expansive portion, meaning the whole United States. So
now, remember, don't be racist, Taac. Don't be racist.
I'm going to try not to.
AOC will find you and your white supremacy.
Matter of fact, before I get into the numbers, let me say, if you live in neighborhoods where you live in apartment buildings, it's going to be crazy because you don't know who's going in and out. You don't know who's touching what. And you know the virus lives on surfaces. You share elevators with people. There's no way in some of these elevators. I grew up in Fort Greene projects. The elevators are super small. You can't stay 6 feet away from people when you're trying to go to work. You might actually be a sanitation worker. You might be one of these essential jobs, and you get on the elevator with the person. So it's going to be crappy living in apartment buildings anyway. But because of that, right, 34% of the deaths are Hispanics. But according to AOC, the woman that wants to be on a person of color bandwagon so damn bad that I promise you in 1942 would have been an exception to actually drink from the whites only fountain. I can promise you that. But she wants to be on that people of color's bandwagon. And then it's 28% black. And then right below that, 27% white. And then after that, 6% Asian.
So racist.
So the part of our society that has the most successful business stature, that has the most successful familiar stature, the most successful people right now in the United States are Asians. And they're dying way less than the rest of the population. What does that say?
I mean, to me, she just sounds like she's into eugenics, but that's just my 2 cents.
But my final point is blacks die the most starting at black on black crime. And then right after that, heart disease, diabetes, and all of the health reasons that have to do with having very, very crappy diets and very, very crappy exercise. I'm going to go ahead and say it. We're probably the most athletic out of any of the races if you want to break it down by race.
You jerk. Everyone knows Jews are the most athletic people on the planet.
You both have chutzpah. I'm just.
We built the pyramids. The pyramids, Taac.
And we built a nation, okay?
The Chinese built the railroads.
True. But with that being said, use that athleticism and stop letting these diseases take you in. And somebody's going to make the argument later, I promise you, about not having access to good foods and all of that. You've got a Whole Foods in the middle of Harlem. I don't want to hear about not having access to quality, non-GMO, organic foods.
Everyone wants to kick the can for that. No one wants to take personal responsibility. And they're talking about, yes, it is about lifestyle. And you do have larger amounts of people in these cities who are minorities living unhealthier lifestyles, and it's a culture issue. It's not because they're brown or black. It's a culture problem. And I spoke to someone about this who is more middle of the road, but he was agreeing with me, like, there is a culture issue in these communities where you're willing to just sit on your ass and blame somebody else, and there aren't enough success stories going back into the community to tell people they need to come out of this, and they need to not buy into the, not even just the Democratic way, but the whole living off the government and going to McDonald's and eating Popeye's chicken. It's not racist, all right? That's what's in these neighborhoods. You have crap food, and you have people drinking higher rates of malt liquor, alcohol, stuff like that, higher rates of drug abuse. And you need to stop doing that. And it's up to people to help their own community. And it's up to people who got out of those communities to go back in and do outreach. I can go into these communities all I want. They're not going to accept anything I have to say. It's just not going to happen. The people who are in there want to see people with their own face. That's why all these people champion Obama as Taac likes to say, the black god, because he looked like them. And that's why all these black kids wanted to go see Black Panther. Even though it was an okay movie. I thought it was a little contrived. But
I personally
I thought the acting was very good, but I thought the story was a little But that's why, because you want to see someone that looks like you. That's the culture that they're living in. This is the message these kids get day in and day out. And I tell people I work with, you're never going to beat the home culture. You're never going to do it. 1 in 20,000 kids you'll reach to beat the home culture. Other than that, it's not going to happen. You need to change the way people are living in these communities if you want to change the death rates, if you want to change the incarceration rates, if you want to change the rates of drug use. You need people in the community to stand up and say, we've had enough, we're not living like this anymore, and they're not willing to do it. They're not. They're just not. That's the problem.
Instead of taking pictures of people that's not standing 6 feet away, and I'm not advocating for this because I don't talk. I'm not a 6'9", okay? But how about instead of taking pictures that are not people that are not 6 feet away or whatever, if you see somebody selling meth, if you see somebody selling crack, and you want to change that culture, take a picture of them. If you're that damn bold to take a picture of anybody, take a picture of the person that's actually breaking the law and fix your neighborhoods. Because until those people start seeing that the neighborhoods are turning against them, they're going to continue doing exactly what they're doing.
We had the woman from PBS call the Health Inspector General racist because of the language he uses. That's the language I use in my household.
Yeah.
Come on.
Martin can make the movie Big Mama, but it's not racist when Martin Lawrence does it. But when the black health general says something,
leftist hypocrisy. Big Mama. We've been saying this. Taac, we've been saying this for months. Actually, we've been saying this for over a year. You've been on the show for months. The left, their hypocrisy knows no bounds. They will do anything to discredit the president. They will just do anything to discredit anyone who is right of center, even center of left. If you are anywhere but left, they will do anything to take you down. These people do not care about facts. They do not care about logic. They do not care about what's actually going on in the streets. You have Andrew Cuomo, who literally went to China for ventilators instead of Remington because he couldn't be seen going to a gun company for help. That is why. Anyone tells me anything different, I'm sorry. I know too much about Andrew Cuomo. I know about everything he's done as governor. This guy is a political machine. Everything he does is for votes. The reason why he says he's a devout Catholic but push for the Reproductive Health Act. This guy only cares about votes. That is his whole thing. So his whole thing, I can't be seen going to a gun company for help. I'm going to go to China instead. Okay? The left's hypocrisy knows no bounds.
You're 100% correct. When you say that, and I mean, and Taac is 100% right when it comes to the culture and the community within or that home culture, even as you said. And it's difficult to break through because when you start to progress, you're told by the people who you grew up with that you love or that loved you, oh, so you think you're too good for us now? You're educated, you're this, and to really change, your neighborhood, it isn't easy. And doing something that you believe in is hardly ever easy. But what people don't understand is, how can you tell me that in certain places of the country where you have a black police commissioner, or, well, let's actually just switch it to minority police commissioner, minority mayor, governor, or people in the state assembly or in Senate or Congress, how are you telling me that you have a slate of people that look like you, whether directly in front of you or making up legislation, and you're going to tell other people that they can't make it? You're in this vicious cycle of ignorance, and it's being peddled to you, and people don't understand. People like AOC won't understand our history. They will always refer to FDR being the first real Democrat, and they don't understand that through his New Deal, the recently freed black slaves that were working on farms for little pay, but they were still making money that they can claim their own, were eventually just shoved in after the war into public housing, and they haven't left since.
I hate FDR so much. Oh my God, one of the worst presidents in the history of the United States. It's a socialist piece of garbage. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
terrible.
People don't understand that this has been systematically done and repeated to the minority communities for generations and decades. And if we don't really do anything about it, it's never going to change. And people like AOC will continue to get away with these lies. And to me, I don't understand how you can just say, oh, well, the party's changed now, we're not the same anymore, and then get away with it. Well, you also have the media that controls how high your fear is and what they want you to see. They'll tell you that, oh, well, it's fine now because they said sorry. Remember the Proud Boys, how much media attention they got because they were seen as this huge alt-right, fascist movement, according to the media. The president and Gavin McInnes were both like, listen, this isn't necessarily true. The president disowned the KKK and was one of the first, I think he was like the first president to call one of the white nationalist groups a terrorist organization. First president to do so. People still say that that's not enough, that he's not doing enough. But people like Bernie Sanders can go out and say, I don't associate with the Bernie Bros. And then boom, disassociated, 100%.
They're the people that work for him. But this is the problem. It's a culture issue, and people want things to be handed to them, especially in these communities, because that's the culture that's been built. And when I was in the academy, I heard a very good quote, and I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this one before. It's, pray not for easier lives, pray to be stronger men. You need to be willing to stand up and make change in your life. It's never going to be easy. You have to make sacrifices. You're going to have blood, sweat, and tears. That is what builds up a community. It's hard work. It's not easy, and it takes time. No one can hand it to you. You have to put in the work.
And you got to work it. You can't depend on the government to step in. You can't keep looking for leaders that are going to go to the government to put the government into your business, because anytime the government gets in your business, it gives some kind of overarching law and rule that doesn't work for anybody because they don't know the lives of the individual. They don't know. It's just like the federal government making rules that reach to each state when they don't necessarily know the culture of each state. So it ends up screwing certain states over. It may work well for California, but it may be crap for New York City or for New York State. You have to get into your communities and work and grow and bring the businesses to your specific communities and stop depending on the government to do it.
And what's great about the free market and great about capitalism is, as I've said, I've grown up both in, I've had experiences in the ghetto and outside of it. And what I realize is there's a whole lot more junk food, liquor stores, and a church and a strip club, all within
block.
a very concentrated area. But if you stop going to those places, they'll lose money and they'll bring in something nicer, maybe a restaurant. You might be afraid of gentrification, and there's arguments to be made that why you're afraid to see a Chipotle instead of a McDonald's. on your street corner. But at the same time, you have the power to say, like, I'm not going to go to these people anymore. I'm not going to help out the drug dealer anymore. And it's so difficult now to try and improve your community, especially with this bail reform law, where you're going to, if you even go up to a police officer and make a report, your name is going to get leaked. And people are going to tell you, people are going to know that you said something. So it's making it so hard to try and change it. And I also feel like through entertainment, you have a whole bunch of people in the entertainment industry, rapping and whatnot, saying like, you can't escape it. This is life. This is what you're going to be. And people just eat it up and buy it all the time. No one says, why don't you come back and do something for us?
Yeah. I'm going to add one last thing. How about you fix your credit, right? Work on that credit. And instead of buying the latest TV when your taxes come in, get with your cousin, get with your auntie, get with the rest of them, and say, hey, we're going to bring in that Chipotle and put it on the street. There's houses, there's dilapidated houses right now. I was in Montgomery over the summertime in 2018, right? Just fishing my life away at their freshwater fisheries and all of that. And as I'm in the middle of the hood, there's dilapidated houses. What you tend to see is lawyers and dental offices like to buy up these houses, and they convert it to law offices and dental offices. Why don't you know a cousin that might be going to dental school? You might know a cousin that might be going to law school. Alabama University is right there. Everybody's Roll Tide or whatever they are over there, Screaming Eagle, whatever. Get those cousins and say, hey, we're going to help you get this house, and it can become your first dental office. It can become your first law office, and start rebuilding your communities. That's the way you have to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know. It makes sense. And it's sad that, this isn't taught. This is something that isn't enforced. And, as we've been saying, it's really up to us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it's a great place to stop. That's a whole nother episode, Gabe. We'll definitely have you back, because that I think we need to dive much, much deeper into.
Thank you.
Gabe,
I got stories.
Let everyone know where they can find you online.
Yeah, so you can look up my Facebook page if you type in Gabriel E. Montalvo. Also, if you want to help support the Republican National Hispanic Assembly New York chapter, just type that in as well onto any social media outlets, and it'll come up. Follow me on Twitter at baron_Montalvo, and on Instagram, baron.montalvo, BARON.
Guys, make sure that you share, like, subscribe for this episode. Please listen on any audio platform, because remember, every time you listen, we get a little bit of money. If you like the videos, if you like any of the stuff, please share it with people who need to be educated, because that is our aim. We are here to educate. We are here to stand up for conservatives in New York, and Taac is standing up for conservatives in Virginia. Make sure you follow Taac on Instagram at Solomon Taac. That's 2 A's and a C, no K in Taac. Follow us at Getredpilledny. And if you have a problem with someone that I follow, please message me privately instead of acting like a little baby on Instagram. I do not have time for that. I am over 30. It's social media. Calm down. We don't have that many followers. For that, protect yourselves and don't let fear take your freedom.